Hello and welcome to our interview series on helping companies to prepare for Ramadan. So this year, Ramadan is going to be like no other because the Muslims are not only going to be tested on their willpower of how they can fast through the entire day, but we are all under MCO, which means that we are all stuck at home. For many people, the past few weeks of working from home has already been very challenging. And by the end of this week, we're going to be coming up to Ramadan, which is a very holy time. And I think this is when companies, managers would benefit from from hearing what other people have to say in how they are preparing their teams for the special month of Ramadan. So I'm very thrilled that today we have with us Shahrulnizam Md Noor, who is the Senior Manager of Human Resources Strategy and Transformation at Tenaga Nasional, Berhad. And he's very kindly agreed to come over and share with us what TNB has been doing. So, Encik Shahrul, to begin, may I just hear from you, how has it been for TNB to transition to MCO, to working from home? What have the past few weeks been like?
All right. Probably to start off with, I have a story to tell. When we heard the announcement of the MCO, I have a mixed feelings because for the past few years, we have been trying to push the agenda of enabling people to work from home. We call that project as a teleworking. And we have done few pilot projects and some focused targeted group to do this project called teleworking. We have already equipped everybody with whatever necessary for them to be working from home and being advising them on what are the SOPs and what are the do's and don'ts and stuff. But when we heard the announcement of the MCO, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. I could say that this is a very good push, even though it sounded very much like a forced motion for us to do MCO. But this also enabled us to do work from home at the scale. And when we started the MCO, we started off a very low percentage of employees working from home. But as the pandemic spread and we are becoming more cautious, the company has given a direction that we should go for more people working from home, and we have managed to push that numbers. And for now, I'll be happy to inform that also to share that we have reached more than 70%, 75% of our employees are now working from home. And one of the good thing that since we already carried on with the project previously on working from home, this time comes as a refinement for our documents, our guidelines, and assisting our employee on how can they do this work from home. Of course, I would attribute the change to 4 areas. One is the environment. So we help employee to creating conducive environment for the employees to work from home. For example, the hardware, the laptops, access to cloud, having them with the required apps and also software, as well as ensuring that all the computers are safe and secure from the viruses or from the hack. And what I'm trying to say is taken care of in terms of cybersecurity. Second part that the second levers are always the communication. Constant communication has been done from the start of the MCO. We had leaders coming out with their emails and postings telling that why should we stay at home. They are sending messages over the importance for us to work from home. At the same time, we shared some tips on how to ensure that we can be productive during these trying times. We give some tips on how to manage your health and stress. we use various ways to communicate, including social media and the official communication media. We also tighten our policies and procedures to facilitate the our people who are working from home, as well as people who are working in the office and at the site. So the safety procedures, for example, are reviewed, and also we update them to make sure that they have a very good care taken by the company during these times. And also in HR, we help our people in terms of giving advice on how to do works, as well as doing scheduling, and also recommended some application or ways on how to monitor the progress of work, and also to do reporting of their progress. So we have already come to the 4th week of MCO. We started to see people start moving back, even though not up to the usual pace, but we have seen things moving quite a very fair speed now.
So would it be fair to say that people are starting to get more and more comfortable working from home?
Yes, it has been a new norm now. Initially, we had people saying that I don't want to work from home. I'm not used to this. This is alien and stuff. But eventually, those who are initially opposing or giving the resistance are now the firm believer and say that, hey, I'm started to enjoy working at home. Can I, right after the MCO is lifted, can I stay working from home? And we have heard so many stories like this around, and it's kind of like interesting to note that the people are now adapting to the new norm.
Yeah, I think one thing that I personally enjoy very much about this is that no traffic jams.
Yeah, some people are very much relieved over no more traffic jams. Some have more time with the family, and but of course, those are always two sides of a coin. So we have to be also be mindful over the other repercussion of working from home. So I think the essence of it is to have a very good balance. I also would like to share with you that now we are in the midst of looking on how can we provide a good transition for our employee to start returning to work. And we had very deliberate discussion over a few weeks ago on how can we facilitate and how can we enable our employee to come to work, whether they are going back in a large group or in stages. We also explore if we were to prioritize the employee to go back to work, how are we going to do it? How are we going to disinfect the workplace that we have left for a month? We also need to also look on how can we manage social distancing at the office. Also, we will also now starting to think on whether we need to introduce cashless transaction in our canteen or during the monetary transaction with the customers. So those are the things that are being discussed, and of course we will refine it from time to time.
Okay, very heartening to hear that you have all these things in place already. So now with Ramadan coming up very soon, how do you anticipate that, or rather what would be the impact that you anticipate your people are going to be experiencing once Ramadan starts?
Okay, Ramadan is always been a special month for me personally. At my workplace, we have a special arrangement during Ramadan where we have a very good or very flexible working hours. We realize that people rise very early in the morning for their sahur, and then capitalizing on that situation, we allow people to clock in early in the morning instead of the normal working hours, which is 8 to 5:15 for those who are working in the office. We allow them to come as early as 7:30. And of course, this is compensated by the early clock out in the afternoon. we also observe shorter afternoon break times because we don't do lunch over Ramadan. So we believe that a short half an hour break is sufficient before we continue with the second half of the day, and that also give another extra hours that we can compensate so that we can go back early and have our buka puasa on time. But that is the normal arrangement. Now with the MCO, I still think that we will observe the same working hours. Only then we don't have to travel, and this time around we've heard that we are still in a cautious mode. There will be no Ramadan buffet. There are no bazaar Ramadan and stuff. So I think people will enjoy extra hours at home during Ramadan. And I think in terms of work expectation or output during Ramadan, I would like to compare this with the normal Ramadan outside MCO. For some, Ramadan may be a counterproductive month, but I don't think so. I always think of Ramadan as a very good opportunity or good window of time where we can increase productivity. I have seen people being very effective in meetings because we don't have to order food. We don't have to go over lengthy discussion, and meetings are kept short during Ramadan. People probably don't want to waste more energy, so they want to keep everything very, very quick and swift. I also attended training during Ramadan. I also conduct interviews during Ramadan. I tend to think that Ramadan that should not be the stumbling block to your productivity, but we have to be aware that the energy level is a bit low compared to the normal months. So I think during Ramadan, I would expect the same, even though during MCO. But of course, with the better balance and management of the energy level that we had.
So what would you advise companies to do in terms of managing this energy level, or any other tips that you can share?
Yeah, I'm thinking right now things like probably we can spend or allocate our days in Ramadan into two, probably the morning part and then the second half of the day in the afternoon. And if we can prioritize or rearrange our work so that we can do more on the decision making or important meetings in the morning while the energy level is high, so that we can get the full attention and probably the best of the people, the best of the brains convening in that session. So we can done that within the first half of the day. Meanwhile, in the afternoon, we can spend in the afternoon with some other activities differently from others. For example, we can have a very interactive training session, or probably a wellness activity. I've seen people are doing light exercise over the video conference, some Zumba or some exercise, so that it can be done together. Some even do some meditation or yoga session in a crowd, but using the video conference platform.
Afternoon would be a good time
since
for like team building, team
this
bonding
time,
activities.
Sorry?
So the afternoon would be a good time for like team bonding, sharing.
You can. I would also recommend that for the afternoon session, we can use that time to do more interaction. For example, departmental meeting or probably a performance conversation, so that we can check on what happened. I know for some job that requires transaction, work from home is ideal because you get minimal supervision and you are very occupied with your transactional job. But for those who are doing somewhat operation or strategic work, the norm of work is a bit more strategic. So probably you can't report much on the output. It will be very much on the progress or probably some milestone reporting. But nevertheless, it's good for us to constantly check and keep the discussion, and also have a kind of like a routine so that in the afternoon it's just about reporting out and also strategizing on what to do on the next phase or next day to come. So yeah, I would recommend that kind of approach for us to do during Ramadan.
So I know a lot of companies are actually doing team huddles in the morning. So quick well-being check and then very quick setting them up for the day. And that helps to keep people together and keeps the morale up. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that do it now towards the end of the day. Close the day with the team huddle instead of open the day with it. When you open the day, do the high concentration tasks.
Yes, but it is also good to have a very quick check-in in the morning. That can be kind of like your MCO ritual, so that you can have everybody's probably just logging in and say hi, probably share a very light moment on what happened yesterday, what's in the news, and probably after that 5 minutes you can start resuming your routine. And then in the afternoon it's about team huddles and planning ahead.
Yeah.
I think during Ramadan we can also do things differently and more creatively. For example, in my unit, we are issuing more communique. For example, the posters, infographic, and HR newsletters to the people, and we included not just about what happening around us. We also put in some useful tips on how do you manage yourself during MCO, and how do you we also promote people to do wellness. For example, we keep track on their footstep count and come up with the leaderboard and stuff like that. So by pushing more communication and this would get people more engaged. And this is the I would always call this as a com 4.0, because people require a very simple, short and sweet and very instant messages in form of infographics that they can share over their normal messaging platform. So that's also part of the thing that we are doing. And we are exploring the possibility to have a virtual town hall with our leaders, whereby we plan for a 1 hour session over the video conference. And we wanted we are thinking about how to make it more interactive during that session, with the inclusion of some games, online games, for example, a short quiz. And also we allow the Q&A session to be done interactively. And we would like our leaders to answer that, so that it shows a fair degree of transparency, and the leaders are also in the know on what being the concern of the staff during this time.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. It's very important to stay connected to the staff, to engage them, so that you can know what they're going through. Sometimes we think we know what people are going through, but as days pass, as week passes, things can change. Sentiments can suddenly change. I've been experiencing that as well. I think my team is okay, then suddenly there's a breakdown somewhere. You know, life just happens when you're at home with all the
I also wanted to share with you that during this time, we had a small unit, counseling unit. They are quite active in coming up with a webinar or a session, sharing session with staff, and they share things that how do you keep your energy okay, and they open up the desk so that you can contact them and to talk to. We also learned that some of our employee gone through tough time adapting to MCO. Some are being stressed up stress being confined in their home or room for those some of this employee who are renting, so probably they have a very much limited space to move around. So these are the help that we can offer through our counseling unit. And of course, I think the important part of constant communication is to create the feeling that the people will know that the leaders are there for them, and the leaders share the same hardship or tough time with them, so that we are in this together and nobody's left out.
I think that's very important for them to know. There may be some people who are, when MCO was called, they may be living away from their families. They could be all alone in KL, but the family is back home.
And it will be very difficult for them to resume work. Some have limited internet connection, and some may be separated from the family. So I think this is the time where we need to reach out and communicate often to our team members, just to check on their well-being and how they are doing.
So far we have during Ramadan, for them to go through fasting alone and then to buka puasa alone, and I know buka puasa has always been like that special time for family or friends to come together.
And we also have to think of our frontliners who are working at site during these trying times. Shops are not open, so we are. I think some of our community started to look on how can we help these people by providing packed food and support to the people at the field.
That's very good. That's very good. Because while, some of us are quite comfortable at home, but there are so many others who are actually going through a very tough time, not having enough food or supplies or groceries, not being able to go out, or the frontliners who every day are worried about, am I going to get infected? Am I going to be safe? There are also people who are going to be worried about their jobs. Are they still going to have a job after this? Will there be pay cuts? So it's a challenging time for everyone. And I think what you're saying is really what resonates with us as well, that it's so important to stay connected with your people. Let them know that the leaders are here for you. And that at the end of the day, if you have that philosophy that we'll do our best to make sure that no one is left behind, then I think that will go a long way to give your people the assurance that, okay, let's stay strong together. We can do this together.
Indeed, in the utility, as we are working, our background of work is about utility and providing electricity, which is now a hygiene factor for everybody in the country. So we want to ensure that we can always provide a comfort to everyone in the country, especially those who are consuming the user of electricity. So I think now that everyone is kind of like stuck at home, the least that they would expect is a shortage of electricity or blackout and stuff like that. And we have been working very hard to ensure the availability of supply and the reliability of the supply nationwide. And I think having that mindset as a utility, we always proud of ourselves being able to provide to the nation, being able to power up the nation. And I think it's about time for us in Tenaga to think beyond that. It's not just about keeping up ourselves or stay employed, but also this is a very good time for us to contribute to the public at large, and started to look to extend our arm and start to help others, those are in need.
Yes. I'm so glad you mentioned it. Something that we all take for granted. Without the electricity, we can't even do this Zoom. We can't even watch our movies. And I cannot imagine how hot and humid it's going to be if we don't have our fans and air conditions at home. We're so used to it.
And Ramadan is usually known as a very hot month hot month. It's a hot season. So I think
Please keep us
we
all
have
cool.
we have our contingency plan in mind, and we have put our people very strategically all over the country to make sure that everybody enjoys reliable and continuous electricity supply. That's part of our daily pledge to our customers.
Thank you so much for that. And also, Cik Shahrul, thank you so much for taking the time to for this interview. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, your ideas. Thanks for sharing with us what you're doing in the company. I hope this will help to inspire other companies as well. And throughout this, however long the MCO is going to be implemented, let's all stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected to each other. And I always like to end with this quote that if we want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we need to go together. So let's journey together throughout this MCO. Stay safe and
let's brace MCO together.
Let's face it together. That's right. And also all the best wishes for a blessed Ramadan.
Yeah, I would like to wish a blessed Ramadan for everyone celebrating, and I wanted to record a heartfelt appreciation to yourself, Janet, and 95% for having me here today.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.